These people are the biggest cucks on the planet.
You're trash.
Hey, come tell me on camera. Come here, coward. Come here, coward.
Oh.
Right here on camera. Right here. Tell people intellectually who you are.
Intellectually who I am?
Go ahead, yeah.
I'm your mama.
Yeah, can't even talk. Look at you.
Hey,
This is what they've turned the people into. This is it right here. Literal slave of the system. See that? That's who they are. Look at this slave. That was great. Come on, hit me. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. I know. I'm trying because you're brainwashed. This is the brainwashing.
Where they have more coffee.
This is the brainwashing. You see? And I'm proud of this because this is who they are. I've deliberately. That's why they're allied with jihadis because they hate the West so much.
Right now.
Sanitation.
No. Elaborate.
What
does that mean?
Sanitary housing.
What do you think about white people? What do you think about white people?
Say what you
Say
mean.
it.
People, hate is not the
It's not fucking hate.
Jesus
taught us to love each other. Stop it. No, that doesn't help.
A cafe in Melbourne is protesting the gender pay gap like we've never seen before. 1 week out of every month, men pay an 18% premium. The tax is optional, but so far, no male customers refused.
If people aren't comfortable with paying it or men don't want to pay it, we're not going to kick them out the door. Like, it's just a good opportunity to do some good.
The cafe, called Handsome Her, also has priority seating for women.
Welcome to Handsome Her, where women reign supreme.
This is called the Wall of Dames, so it's a wall of inspirational women.
Owner Alexandra O'Brien calls it a space for women by women, with priority seating for females and an extra tax for men.
1 week out of every month we have an 18% premium for men, which is the same amount as the gender pay gap.
I think it's fair if you think about the world and the gender inequality that we have.
I think it's a brilliant idea because I don't think that many people know the actual gap.
The tax is optional, but so far none of the cafe's male customers have refused to pay it.
I could wear that, considering that there is a fair, it's a fairly unequal pay gap between men and women. Even though there is supposedly equal pay, it doesn't really equate out there.
Staff say the gender tax isn't aimed at excluding people, but rather educating them, with proceeds going to charity.
If people aren't comfortable with paying it or men don't want to pay it, we're not going to kick them out the door. Like, it's just a good opportunity to do some good.
Tabling for Turning Point USA. Got some
Neo-fascist Becky right here. Becky the neo-fascist right here. Wants to destroy public schools, public universities, hates DACA kids. No KKK, no neo-fascist USA. Fight white nationalism. Fight white supremacy.
Oh, you'd like to talk to her, but be careful,
No,
she'll take your picture.
No, she already done. She's already done. All right.
The founder of TPUSA will put your favorite professors on a watch.
You know what?
Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you!
I mean,
fuck you!
Free speech, you fucking piece of shit!
Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you!
give me a hug.
Back up, motherfucker! Fuck off, Nazi scum!
If the viewers watching right now, take a look at what happens to this woman who is holding an American flag. She's holding an American flag, and a protester comes to her, drags her along there, pulls her anyway. Let's watch this. You can see her flag lying up on the ground. And this is the kind of thing that we hate to see in these protests. I mean, this is where it starts to take that really horrendous turn. And then we're looking at the people, Buck, that you cited earlier as being the anarchists.
I was just going to say, first of all, that's assault, what just happened there. So you already have people that think that they're able to violate the free speech rights of others and break the law. You can't grab something out of someone's hand and drag them along on the ground. That's their property, and that's assault. And then you also did catch a glimpse of what would be...
She's clearly upset.
Clearly upset. Of course, anyone would be. She's holding up an American flag in Boston. You would think that this should be...
Christy,
people should be coming by giving her a high five. Instead, they're pulling her on the street.
On the ground now. Christy, your thoughts on all of this as it unfolds?
I believe that there is a tremendous danger here in making false equivalencies between, I think we're in danger of doing the same thing that, frankly, the president got in trouble on Tuesday for doing, which is by saying that there's violence on many sides, when there is
all white people are racist. So I put this up because I really want any white person in the room to know up front that this is what we're dealing with, that it's not going to be this coddling of white tears and what that looks like. We're not going to discuss, oh, maybe some of us have worked it out. No, you're always going to be racist, actually. So even when you're on your path to trying to figure out how to be a better human being, because I believe that white people are born into not being human, like that actually, instead of people of color and black folks being dehumanized, that actually everyone is dehumanized off rip within white supremacy, that y'all are born into a life to not be human, and that's what y'all are taught to do, to be demons. So in this particular way, white people are all racist. So I just want y'all to know that up front.
Yes, it's time for campus craziness. The University of Minnesota has a student group with one rule: no white people, period. On its website, the group Tongues Untied touted itself as a safe space targeted exclusively at LGBTQIA and or same gender-loving people of color. For those of you who speak English instead of progressive, that means the group is for non-white gay and transgender people and no one else. Since the story broke, the group has updated its webpage to remove its warning that whites should stay away. But Mike Mullen wrote about the controversy for City Pages, and his take was that white people should shut up and stop whining. Mike Mullen joins us. For coming on, Mike. You basically think this is the white guys, the alt-right white, as you call them, at campus reform making a fuss about nothing.
Right. I would say that this doesn't really bother me, and I'm surprised that it bothers them. If you saw the original message on the website, it said to allies of this group, they would ask that you please give them some privacy to have their meeting alone. I don't think that the people at Campus Reform or the people who have acted like they're outraged at this are actually the allies that they're referring to.
You described the fellow at Campus Reform who brought this up, Mitchell Gunter. You said he's a notably white man from South Carolina. What do you mean by a notably white man?
I meant a joke.
Yeah. What's the joke there? I mean, you seem notably white to me. Is that a joke? You're a notably white man from Minnesota.
Right, and I'm not outraged that I'm not allowed to go to a group for black and queer gay people. That doesn't hurt me. The fact that
But just to go on with this compartmentalization, this is for LGBTQIA people of color and LGBTQIA indigenous people. I always lose it after the Q. What do the I and A stand for in that?
Honestly, I'm not sure. I assume it's indigenous and something. I don't know.
Wrong. It's intersex and asexual. So I just wanted to ask you here, why do you think that an indigenous trans woman has more in common with an African American asexual than with a white trans woman? Because that's what this group is saying.
No, they're saying that think they have more in common and want to get in a room with each other and have a conversation about, I guess, their race or their sexuality. They would be allowed to do that.
No, they've actually formed, you couldn't, for example, form a group for notably white people, such as yourself and the fella from South Carolina, Mitchell Gunter, and you have a group for notably white people who are notably heterosexual. But you can have a group that says a white trans woman is excluded from this group, but an African-American asexual can be a member of the group. You happy with this? Because this is like Mad Libs, where you just toss the identity group confetti in the air and it all comes down and you piece it together any which way, except that if you belong to certain core identities, you're excluded. You think this makes any sense for trans people or asexual people or intersex people?
What I would point out is that whenever there's outrage about these kind of groups and their supposed segregation or discrimination, it's never actually coming from that trans white woman. She probably understands why they would want to be alone. It's coming from people like you, I guess, who they're asking to leave them alone.
Yeah, and the criticism of people like me, who are notably white, is coming from other notably white people like you. Don't you think that's what's weird, too? That there's like agonized, notably white progressive liberals like you getting upset about notably white... by the way, why do you call campus reform alt-right whites? What's that mean?
It means that if you look at their coverage, mostly what they do is they look for things like this where they can act outraged about the fact that they're that it's actually white, straight people, usually men, who are the ones who are truly being discriminated against, which is, to me, I guess, falls short.
We're talking here about why white transgender women can't go, or why intersex women can't, or men, or both, can't go to this group.
Do you have a lot of them contacting you and saying that they're outraged that this
No, I'm not actually
group for people of color
I'm not actually persuaded that that intersex. I'm not actually persuaded that indigenous intersex persons are a measurable demographic. I'm asking you, as a notably white person yourself, don't you think this multiplicity of identity group balkanization, splitting into ever more micro and in fact barely detectable groups, isn't quite absurd?
No, I don't think it's absurd. I mean, you're right. This is a very small group. As far as I can tell, there are maybe 10 people in it. And the fact that it exists doesn't bother me, and I didn't even know it existed until a couple weeks ago when people who had never heard of it before also became outraged by it. Its existence has not done anything to them or to you.
What do you think of Martin Luther King, who thought that one day we could be judged on the content of our character rather than the color of our skin? Now we've ended up with a world in which the color of your skin apparently trumps whether you're a transgender person or whether you're a lesbian, because the fact that the color of lesbian you are is more important.
I think Martin Luther King is great, and I assume if he tried to go to one of these meetings, they would let him in.
I don't think so. Unless he's an African-American asexual. And again, we don't know that. Thank you very much. That's the notably white Mike Mullen. Thanks for coming on the show, Mike. Speaking to us from Minnesota, we'll let you know.
Hello, my name is Jane. I'm social justice waste. Agree with me or you'll be shamed. Hello, my name is Jane. I'm social justice waste. Agree with